All right, English teacher friends. So, welcome back for another video. Today, we're going to talk about the kind of partnership or the merging of word study, so vocabulary acquisition, and voice. For me, they're sort of inseparable. It's kind of like, if you have a campfire, you got to have some s'mores. If you have a Super Bowl, you need some chicken wings. If you have, ice cream, you need hot fudge. So they're kind of intertwined in my world. And several teachers have asked me to knock down the walls of my classroom and show what my academies look like. And let me explain what I mean by that. So early in the academic year, I do a nuance academy, and I do it at all grade levels. So I have 9 through 12. I have Lang, I have Lit, and I even do this at the college level, where I adjunct at a local university here. So to make sure that my students are all shored up with the basics of grammar, punctuation, and syntax, I run my nuance academy, where I typically have Strunk White's Write It Right as sort of the seminal text or the anchor text of those instructions, and just to really make sure that my students have mastery of basic foundational literacies and mechanics, I run that Nuance Academy. The Word Study Academies I do all year long, all academic year long. I'm big on vocab, but vocab in and of itself, like if it's not partnered with how to manufacture that authentic academic voice in our students, is going to be a miss. And I think this is where a lot of teachers see students do things such as this. So every year, especially at the AP level, I have a ton of students who espouse the following notion. And student says to himself or herself, the more big words I use, the better my writing is. So the idea that if I just use a gazillion tier 2 level words in an essay, therefore I have produced stellar writing. And I find that I really have to disabuse students of that notion early in the academic year. It's a fine balance of, having the, access to those tier 2 level words. And by tier 2, I just mean your average run of the mill SAT level word. But also being able to teeter-totter balance that with the colloquial and the vernacular for voice. So it's academic diction, colloquial, vernacular, blended all together. That's how you get kids to write with, that certain degree of spunk and pizzazz and flair that high-scoring anchor papers do. So in this exercise here, we're going to do a little lesson in vocab, but also in voice, and merge those two worlds together using David Shannon's classic text, No David. My son, at the time of this recording, is 19 years old, and was beyond stoked that I found a way to use his favorite childhood book. We used to read this every night for probably like 3 or 4 years of my son's early existence, reading No David. So I'll show you how my students do a revisionist rendering of No David to meld together the voice lessons and the vocab lessons. So let's dive right in. So the first question is, can voice even be taught? And I say it can. I have had conversations with teachers where they have said, Christian, you're an idiot for espousing this idea that voice can be taught. It's kind of like teaching, an intramural bench warmer basketball player, LeBron James, intangibles. You can't do it. It's innate. It's congenital. You either you have it or you don't. And I disagree with that. I think that voice can totally be honed and kind of assuaged and cultivated to certain degrees. But I do agree with folks on the opposing side of the fence that say that it is, has a certain like innate organic quality that you either have it or you don't. But it's like anything. It's like, can you teach a kid a musical instrument? Yeah, of course, and I think voice works the same way. So ultimately, this exercise asks students to do this: turn on your best academic self. And I think when we ask our kids to cop academic diction and academic tone in their writing, that we turn the switch off on their availability to colloquial and vernacular expressions. And I think the on switch needs to be on, or the switch needs to be on for the colloquial, the vernacular, and the academic all at the same time. Meld those together, blend those together, and you have some phenomenal writing. So here's what I ask my students to do. They think this is kind of funny to some extent. I say, I want you to write as if you with the swagger of like the dude who invented the first latte. I was like, just go back to like that coffee house scene where, the dude walks in and he's like, I want a latte. And, someone at Starbucks looks at him like, what the hell's a latte? Like stay in your wheelhouse. Have good access to tier 2 level vocabulary, but don't be a goon about it. Don't be contrived. Don't be pretentious. It's that blend, that teeter-totter balance of the colloquial, the vernacular, and the academic. That's what I find good writers do. Good, like, student writers do, is kind of walk the tightrope of those three: the colloquial, the vernacular, and the academic. So for this exercise, it gets back to a few of the things that I've talked about in my other videos, and one is exercising the pause. I think students, I tell students, they know so much more than they think they know. They really don't give themselves credit for what they know. And inside their heads, they have these really active sponges that have absorbed thousands of words, thousands of tier 2 level words. The problem is that as they write and as they speak, they often don't exercise the pause long enough to bring forth those tier 2 level words. So myself as a writer, I get in very early every morning to school, like an hour and a half early, so that I can work on my poetry, or, if I'm working on a textbook or something of that nature. And I'll be writing, and then boom, pause. And I ask myself, what's the best word? What's the best word? What's the best word? And usually when I ask that question, what's the best word, I'm looking for a tier 2 level word. And invariably it comes, or, I have the druthers enough to bust out a dictionary and go looking for it. Our students need to cultivate that habit. And ultimately through these exercises that I've developed in my Word Study Academy, the contextualization of these words is the VELCRO that ultimately allows these words to, be part of the sponge in the brain. So here's the thing for this. So no David, we are going to revise. All right. And the original story, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is written from the point of view of a frustrated mother who is reprimanding and trying to rein in her unwieldy um, child. All right. So each page is like, no, David, don't write on the wall. No, David, you can't run around the neighborhood streets without any clothes on. So it's, so in this revision, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have to parent like a hipster. All right. Parent like your best academic self. So each revisionist text has to begin with, hey, little dude. All right. And with anything, right? So I'm a big proponent of this. Bob Ross the instruction. So instead of assigning, I'm going to explicitly teach it. So I'll model for you and your students exactly what I mean by this. So Here's page one, or page one of the book, No David. So you can see the mother saying, "No, David, you're gonna smash the fish bowl and kill the fish. It's gonna go all over the floor. This is gonna be a catastrophe." So what I want my students to do is to revise this, get into the colloquial, the vernacular, and the academic. So I imagine, the latte guy, the guy that invented the latte, saying something like this: "Hey, little dude, you're being a pernicious little twit," right? Often when we write, especially students, we want them to be their spunky 16, 17, 18-year-old selves, right? So write with pizzazz, write with flair, be authentic, but teeter-totter balance, the tier two, like pernicious, with words like twit, right? When they can do this, especially when they're writing arguments, all right, it's really, really skillful. And I'm going to follow this up with an exercise um, where, my students are going to be working on a synthesis essay. We're going to tackle FRQ3 from the Lang exam. Next week, and I'll show you exactly how they do this in an academic setting. So this is sort of like a hyperbolic exercise just to practice. So the next page, we see David writing on the wall, and his mom says, "No, David." So what does the hipster say? The hipster that's going to parent David. "Hey, little dude, how about you take your sophomoric Crayola scrawl to a piece of scrap paper?" Rhetorical question, right? So do you see that blend there of the tier two, the academic, the colloquial, and the vernacular? So I'll take you through this. So that's the next page of the story. David reaching for a cookie. "Hey, little dude, that's a rather precarious move just to become a fatty." Right? So I want my kids to have fun with this. Be saucy, be sassy, right? Have some spunk, have some flair, have some pizzazz. Like really focus on the voice. So it's kind of a creative writing exercise too, but to blend it all together. So David's outside playing in the mud, and he comes in, and walks across mom's clean floor, and she says, "No, comma, David, comma, no, exclamation." "Hey, little dude, yup, you kind of defiled my immaculate carpets with your grubby little self," right? So this is the blend: defile, immaculate, grubby, with things like little self. Um, yeah, so that's ultimately how we want, students to blend and balance and to have this amalgamation in their voice. So here's another one: bathtub scene. "No, exclamation, no, exclamation, no, exclamation. Hey, little dude, keep the deluge in bounds, please." Right? So David running down the street completely, naked. "Hey, little dude, proper attire is requisite in my hood." Right? So we get into these conversations of, students have heard words like attire. They've heard words like requisite. They've heard words like, in this one here, decibel. They've heard words like clamorous. Bring them forth as you are writing. Pause long enough. Get your mind trained to bring these tier two level words to the surface, to the forefront in your speech and your writing. But, don't be, too academic, but don't be too simple as well. So it's this balance. So for this one, where David's being told to be quiet: "Hey, little dude, that's a bit too clamorous on the old earbuds. Mind turning the decibel down a bit?" And then the next page: "Don't play with your food!" Exclamation. "Hey, little dude, potato, green bean, and chicken is a sumptuous trifecta. Less play and more eat, please." Right? So again, kids have heard these words like sumptuous and trifecta. Blend, blend, blend. "That's enough, David. Hey, little dude, that's a total maelstrom of chewed up gross." Right? So do you see there again, like, just teeter-totter balance, the colloquial, the vernacular, the academic, words like maelstrom. Hey, little dude, you need to sequester yourself to your abode for a 5-minute timeout, right? So, hey, little dude, mellow out and simmer, unwind and placate with a book or something, right? So, again, just every revision, use some tier two, use some vernacular, use some colloquial. And again, it's hyperbolic, it's kind of a creative exercise, but it plants the seed of like really how to do this in the argument, the persuasion, the synthesis. Might even carry over into rhetorical analysis and literary analysis a little bit. Hey, little dude, rather repulsive and repugnant. Extract the finger, please. All right. So students can have a lot of fun with this. And ultimately, what I have them do is I put them in teams of like 2 or 3, and probably no more than 4. Otherwise, it invites students to, blend in and be wallflowers and not participate and not produce any work, but to revise it together as a team and to present it to class is a pretty neat exercise. Hey, little dude, mind tidying up the sty a bit? Students have heard that. It's just a 3-letter word, sty, pigsty. Your room's a pigsty, tidy, sty. Hey, little dude, totally ill-advised to be clobbering Babe Ruths around your mom's irreplaceable antiques. As the mom says, not in the house, David! Exclamation. Right? I said no, David, as he does a timeout after he's already busted the vase. Let's take a 5-minute reprieve to reflect how karma is like a boomerang, right? So, hey, little dude, how about we assuage the situation with a bro hug, right? So again, teaching these words, assuage, to go back here, reprieve. Students, tend to know these words, and they can bring them forth. And if they don't know them, they're going to learn them through context through this exercise. And then the last page, we just kept it. Hey, little dude, I love you, right? So you're a pain in the butt. You're a little kid, but we love you. So that's just one exercise that I've developed over the course of my career to teach that partnership between voice and vocab. And as many of you know, I'm running the summer short course series starting June 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do the Word Study Academy. It's a 60-minute professional development intensive, and we're going to run you through the whole gamut of ways to do Word Study Academy. So this is just one example of hundreds of activities that I've developed over my 20-year career to really focus in on voice and vocabulary. So if you want more information on that, you can go to my website at teachinghowtowrite.com. If you want these slides, you can email me at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com. In the summer short course, we got the Nuance Academy, where we're going to be looking at how to absolutely 100% ensure that every single one of your students has mastered the basics of grammar, punctuation, and syntax. It's a whole academy that I've developed around Strunk and White's Write It Right. So we'll learn things like the to be verb rules, rule number 18, which is the key to voice rhythm and flow instruction. We're going to do AP strategies for success, my 2-hour alternative grading method intensive, and an introductory course on my Plato's Plato discussion. So that's all coming up this summer. We're going to be doing the Teach It Right 5-week mastermind as well. I have some projects going on with NCTE and the National Writing Project. So visit my webpage and you can learn about some of those irons that I have in the fire and stay abreast of my comings and goings. So that's it for now. I hope all is well. Happy teaching and happy writing.